Hi everyone, and thank you so much for turning up. I'm Anita from the Youth Foyer / Better Futures with Berry Street. We have our amazing panel here, and thank you all very much for coming. We've worked really hard with lots of other agencies or places to bring this together. Everyone's like, this one would be great if we can get this one on the panel, which has been fantastic. So we have Cameron Reid, who's our Take 2 senior clinician. We were talking about how we're seniors now because we've been around a long time. So we don't get a seniors card though, unfortunately. We have Amanda I'm going to say this, Arezzo. I was going to ask you beforehand how to pronounce it. From CPE Construction, and Amanda's the HR manager there. We have Scott Alexander here from Travascus Engineering, the operations manager. And his apprentice there is Casey Sullivan. Thank you very much, Casey, for coming. Great to have young people here. We have Jenny Foote from Foot Waste Solutions and another young person, Alana, who's working with Jenny at Foot Waste as well. And also one of our amazing Foyer alumni from Youth Foyer, which is great. So Lisa's obviously helping out with doing these panel questions, and we'll just take in turns. But if we can just hold questions to start with, just to get some of the theme going, and then we'll come out to the audience if anyone has any more questions as well.
So, Amanda, I know we spoke the other week a little bit around, COVID and the effect that that's had on staff and some of the apprentices. So, do you think that there's a shift that's required for staff and their tolerance for working with young people? And what are some of the things that CPE have done to overcome this?
Yeah, definitely. So, during COVID, it became very apparent that the young people weren't coping. 15% of our workforce is under 25, so just productivity and just general morale, it was, they've gone from playing sports, seeing their girlfriends or their boyfriends, to being at home with their parents. So, and I think that was the start that really highlighted to us how their mental health can impact their work. So things we did was firstly acknowledge it, and instead of, that approach of, they've got to work harder, they've got to be better, it was really understanding the driver of the change. And then, we increased social gatherings in work hours just because that was the only outreach they had. We were an essential service, so we were lucky to be able to keep working. So just doing that, and just understanding more around each of their mental health. And like I said to you, I completed mental health first aid training just to have a better understanding and a better tool to help them. And I think moving forward, it's highlighted the need of the workforce is different to what it was. And, people have got different backgrounds, and the communities we're in, different demographic. And I think it's times to change where they want and need more in a workplace than just a job. And fair.
Yeah, amazing. So I guess some of those kind of outdated maybe ways of thinking about things and, get on with your job, what the hell's this problem, that type of thing, as much as there are frustrations around that as well, that's kind of really not, maybe not the right way to go about things. And I mean, CPE have been really, amazing to be able to provide you the opportunities to do things like the mental health training, and we'll speak about this a little bit later, but, some of the schools connection types things that you do as well, which obviously benefit the business and the staff. So that's amazing. Thank you, Amanda.
No worries. What can an employer do if a young person's looking like they're struggling in the workplace? Have you got some tips around that? I know Rebecca touched on some before, but just like that disengagement, or they're upset or angry and outside that window of tolerance, is there any other things that the specific employer could do at that time when they're presenting?
Yes, very good question, Anita. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm sure you haven't heard it before.
A little bit of time to think about it. So, so although the strategies that Beck touched on as well are really important, and I'd probably encourage us to take a step back from the strategy and think about the approach that's needed for young people to feel safe. We talk a lot in our program around relational and emotional safety. So the experience of a lot of young people that Beck and I work with, really their experience of relationship hasn't been a safe one. So relational kind of interactions can be a real trigger and can easily send young people, into that sort of outside the window of tolerance. So we focus a lot on really working with people around developing and carers and whether it's teachers at school or whatever, but working on the approach that builds that relational safety. So is the approach accepting of the young person, the language that feels accepting, understanding of the difficult situation that they're in, messages of support and that sort of thing, as well as just being curious as well. So the curious is a big one, because that stops quickly going into judgments, and it stops young people feeling kind of blamed. So just simply being curious. I wonder what's going on for this young person, and even approaching that interaction with that young person. I can see you're upset. What might be going on for you? This must be really overwhelming. So that kind of approach is really, really important, and what it buffers this kind of immediate reaction that I know for a lot of young people I work with, that they're kind of primed to feel that relationship or that interaction is unsafe. A lot of young people have a very negative view of themselves and also have a perception that other people have a negative view of them. So they're kind of already on that back foot. So really got to work hard and think hard about and look through the eyes of the young person, what sort of interaction is going to make them feel safe. And that helps bring them, when we feel safe, it brings that kind of stress response system down, and gets people and young people to a place where they're, like Beck was talking, the higher parts of the brain are back online, opens up conversation, and then leads to greater understanding of what's going on for that young person, what's going to help, what sort of support they need.
So I know something amazing that you guys have implemented at Terrascus Engineering is your employment assistance program, which I thought was great. So can you just chat to us a little bit around that, and I guess how that's helped you and staff within the business?
Yeah, so we had, in the past, there was the manager's responsibility to, if somebody had some issues, we'd identify that. You'd have a chat to the person, see if they're all right, and then we would say, maybe you should go and see somebody. We did have an avenue at that stage where we could send those guys to. We've actually formalised that now, so instead we might identify it and still put them on that path. But we've got the employee assistance program, so we've actually got an organisation that we give everyone a business card. So it's all confidential. They don't even have to come and say to us, we're going to see that place. They just ring up and say, they've got a staff list to say, I'm so-and-so, I need to make an appointment. The first 3 sessions the company pays for, and then after that it's on the individual. But that creates that, I'll just say, so people don't feel shame, I guess, because there's people who feel that and they don't go and do anything. So to know that's a confidential service, we don't even know about it half the time. The only time we'll know about it is when the bill comes and it doesn't have anyone's name on it. So it's all confidential, and people have used it, which is really good, and had good results as well. When we did know who was going, they would actually come and say, that was really good, I'm glad I went. So it's a very valuable support that we have in place, and it has good results, and it helps, because you could have the person who's the best worker in the workshop or the whole place, and then an issue comes up, and then you start thinking, what's going on here? They're usually pretty good, and then there is something going on, and to have those supports in place to help them gets them back on track, and they can be a productive team member again.
Yeah, that's amazing, Scott. I really like that idea. And, although obviously there is a cost to the business for that, I think we spoke around how it kind of, it's just such a benefit because staff are feeling like, there's no stigma around that. You're really inclusive. And also it's allowing you guys to kind of, work on the business and not have to try and, navigate all of that stuff on your own and maybe not be as effective. So, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Scott.
To me, and I get to talk to Alana, who's our wonderful, Foyer alumni, as well as working Jen. So Alana, what piece of advice, if you had the best piece of advice to give an employer, based on your experience in the workplace as a young person, what would it be?
I guess it's about having a conversation with people, understanding where they're coming from. And I guess, it doesn't have to be in depth, or you don't have to know what exactly is going on. But yeah, just asking the question or just kind of saying, are you okay? Things like that are really important. I guess because, for me personally, I am a quiet person. I'm kind of thinking, why the hell am I here at the moment? So it's kind of terrifying. But
we talked you into it.
Pretty much, they did. But yeah, I guess having a conversation for me is really important, and maybe the young person may not be able to initiate that conversation. So I think, maybe recognising that something is wrong and just sort of asking the question, are you okay? Do you need further assistance? I guess it kind of takes that pressure off them approaching you, or maybe they feel like they can't approach or something like that. So I think, having a conversation is really important.
That's great. Thanks very much, Alana.
And now we're over to Casey. So Casey is a apprentice at Travascus Engineering, and we also had a good chat last week. Casey, I guess, what drew you to seek out the job at Travascus Engineering and then commence your SBAT after your work experience? So what drew you into that field?
Well, I was doing homeschooling because of COVID at the time when I was really kind of getting bored at home, to be honest, as everyone would have. But my mum really pushed me to go out of the house, and I wanted to just get out and do something, and I couldn't go see my friends or anything. And I really enjoyed metalwork at school. And I was actually doing my Cert 2 in engineering at TAFE. So my mum pushed me to come into TAT and go into work. And she just if you want to get out of the house, just go in here. So pretty much just shoved me out the door. So must have been sick of me. So I went in and talked to Scott for a bit. So I knew absolutely no one at Travascus. So I was sort of a bit out of my comfort zone. So I went in and talked to Scott, see what I could do. I asked to do some work experience. He gave me a few different dates of what suit me, and I asked to do on the school holidays, so I didn't miss out on my schooling. And I did 2 weeks there and absolutely had a ball. I absolutely loved it. I have no bad words to say about it, honestly.
That's nice. Good pump up for the business. Excellent.
I got to have a go at both sides of the shed, and I really loved the weld shed. I loved both sides, but the weld shed, I just adored. And my supervisor really pushed for me to start working there, and so did my mum, because I could not stop talking about it. So I talked to Scott about if I could get put on full time. He really pushed me to stay at school, which I really appreciate. I didn't want to, but I really appreciate it now. So I went on and asked for a school-based apprenticeship, and he was very supportive of me and was happy to do that. So I ended up doing that. So, yeah,
Yeah, and I know Scott has said, you guys prefer, a year level, completion, because by that, you guys feel that for your business, by that age, they're mature enough to kind of take it on. And I love the fact also, Casey, that you kind of, went back through conversations with your mum and whatnot too, but that went in there and kind of, pushed for that SBAT, because I know a lot of workplaces kind of feel a bit funny about work placements and SBATs, because it's like, oh, it takes time out of our day and, there is a lot of work involved, but I think that's amazing. And so what's kind of kept you there? What are some of the key things? And I know I learned a new term from you the other day, a new trade term called the foreigners, which I probably should know because Dad's a tradie, but I didn't know what this was. So you seem pretty stoked about that when we talked about that. So what's kind of kept you there, I guess?
Well, I find the people, I get along with all of the workers there. I don't have a problem with anyone there. But that's pretty easy for me, to be honest, because I'm a pretty happy person. But I find the people are very supportive of me and are very happy to help me as well, as anyone would be, but they're just really supportive of me.
And this foreigners thing, what is this about? Can you tell us?
Sorry. They let me, any worker there, I'm allowed to stay back out of work times and work on my own things. I'm allowed to use the tools and the facilities there for my own use. Obviously, I'm getting help at the moment because I'm only an apprentice and I don't really know everything, so I get a bit of help from the other people, which they're all happy to do. So.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Casey. How are we going for time? Yep.
I think this was about COVID again, Jen, just about have you seen a difference post-COVID as well, and is there a need for flexibility in the workplace around, this, it's still around, but, post-COVID era for young people particularly, but employers overall?
I think for us, we're going through a really big change. We're building a new facility. Follow us on Facebook. We're just about to move in another month, so that's changing. It's really changing our whole world. We've had a HR consultant on for 12 months nearly now, because as we build our physical build, we're also rebuilding our team. Part of that's coming out of COVID, what we look like we need, and to bring... and we can talk about the young people, but the old people like me, everyone struggled through all of this. We also have an EAP program and it's brilliant, and our staff feel supported. They feel they've got another voice to go to. Our managers feel supported because they can say, hey, here's a card, you need this. And so we're really looking at what post-COVID looks like. We always brought our people in because we were an essential service, and I had two that had significant personal issues coming into COVID just prior, and I really wanted them in the office. I was really concerned about one in particular, but so I was glad that they kept coming. Real logistics business, the customer care team talked together all day. They were set up to work at home. It just didn't kind of work for us, but it was, available. I did say to one girl, why don't you stay home tomorrow and pretend the world's not great, because it's not tomorrow. So they're that reverse of coming in and then saying, hey, just have a day away. So I think it's being close to your managers and to your staff. I think we are lucky that as a family-owned business, we sort of have that luxury, but mindful that, all the managers are tired too, even in big organisations. And so we need to regroup, and we need to have that conversation and put a line through it and just go, okay, that was then, what is the future? And that's what we're doing at Footways. So what does it look like? So some of our jobs that we are going out to market with now, because we're probably going to put on about 10 new jobs. We're putting in a HR person, putting all these things that we've dreamed of, as we have a real crack to get our business up to the next level. But we can only do that with our people. And we realised before COVID that we're not diverse enough. We didn't have enough diversity, and we didn't have enough young people. So that's very much part of the conversation. But it takes planning. It takes a lot of planning. And if our adults are struggling, how do I expect to bring in the young people that are struggling, that don't have the support? But we will. So we believe that we need a framework for training. It's not sexy to sort rubbish, I know that, but it's a starting point, because we have about 26 trucks of all different types that come in, and if we can get those young people in and start, yes, at the bottom, and go, I want to drive that truck one day. If you have a forklift licence and a truck licence, you have a job for life. And it's really important, it pays well, and so we are working really hard for us to have a safe workplace. Alana's been a great little test for us to bring her in, because by extension what I was able to do, I just identified the girls needed help. You know, such a rocky, as soon as they closed down a section of the business, that closed us down because we weren't picking up rubbish from that sector. So it was like, oh, how far are we going to fall here? And then we sort of stopped, and then we got busy. And then, so I spoke with Matt Jobling from, where are we? Foyer. And he said, I've got this really great girl. I said, I think I need a girl Friday. I think my girls need some help. So that was, you know, we were lucky how it came in, but it's also been a great exercise for me. We've had other young people. Anyone will tell you, it never works out great, but I've had some older people it's never worked out either. So we're not going to put them in a box, you know. But gee whiz, she's been great. She's studying social work. And I wish she was studying business admin, because she'd be doing a lot more and we'd be bringing her in. But that was the deal. She's my girl Friday. She's brilliant. She is she's actually quietly confident. And that's why she's sitting up. That's why you're sitting up here, by the way. So I guess the answer is COVID's given us, if we can even breathe, an opportunity to look at our business. So some of our jobs are, we think we're going to have that job school hours, or maybe it's a job share. You know, we haven't probably had that luxury either, but we've now had the time. As we want to build our A team, we've been talking about that for 2 years, our A team. So when we kind of go, oh well, they're not our A team, or they're going to be our A team, and it's changing our mindset in our business, I guess. So I probably raved on a bit, but but by extension, and just last, I was able to be her referee for another job, and then to get into a house. And poor real estate man, if you're here, who I didn't know, 15 minutes, I reckon. And I said, have you heard about Foyer? And off I went, because, I'm handing the baton to him to, help this girl that is just a delight, and she, we're the community that can help you. So can you just give her the house? Because she'll just pay you back in spades. She won't cause you a moment of trouble. I didn't realise that would happen when I employed her, I suppose because you care for all your employees. But to see where Alana's come from and through the program at the Foyer, I feel really good that we can be that referee. And she texted me and said, oh, thanks for that reference. But I said, no, you've earned it, because I don't actually give them lightly. And so that's good, what our community does, And so that's been a great experience for us to have, Alana.
Yes, that's been great. And then you've been a great ambassador for Foyer to Jen over the years, so thanks very much for that. We'll go to the audience for any questions, not to put anyone under the pump, but we have got some backup questions if there isn't any, but I can walk around for anyone who might have one. Awesome, over here. If you just say your name and where you're from, that'd be great too. Thanks.
So I'm Regina, and I'm from Wadia Works School Leaver Employment Support. I have a question for you, Alana. Thank you. Sorry. I was just wondering, how did you go about navigating your role at Foot Waste, and how has it set you up for future employment, whether it's going into social work or another avenue?
I guess in terms of my work, I know my expectations. So I think this is actually a later question, but I'll just answer it now. So with Jen, when I first, heard about Foot Waste, I didn't actually have an interview. I just sat down and had a conversation with her. And she sort of explained to me what she wanted, and then my expectations as well. So that kind of allowed me to, know if that was right for me, and also if I was right for the position that Jen wanted me to do. So I guess that's important. Like I said before, I'll just keep saying it. Having a conversation is really important, and yeah, just communication and understanding. I guess for me, understanding what I'm supposed to be doing is really important. I like goals and things like that. And I guess in terms of future employment, I've been able to get a couple more jobs since then. So I work a couple of different jobs at the moment. And I guess it's given me the confidence to say, you know, I've been employed. You know, going into interviews, I'm not as nervous as I would have been. Yeah, and I guess, yeah, does that answer your question? Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I think I've got one over here too.
Thank you. I'm Marianne from Greater Shepparton Secondary College. Congratulations to the young people on the panel. You've done an excellent job. I have a connection to both of you, which Casey through the college, and Alana, I'm also on the Lift Off Scholarship Committee, so congratulations on that. My question is to Amanda. What do you see are the benefits of work experience with young people?
I think the benefits to the young people are they get to come in and understand different industries and what that career path could be. So for them, it's a great opportunity to, you know, try something before they commit. And for the workplace, for us personally, it's about being able to showcase our industry and showcase the roles that we have. And even being in a country town like Cobram, it's surprising that people don't know who we are and the opportunities we can provide through, you know, apprenticeships, internships, school-based apprenticeships, all those type of things. And work experience and connecting with the schools helps us showcase that, so the young people know what's right at their doorstep. So, yeah.
Great. Thanks for that. I think that's still going. Is anyone else got a question? Awesome. Oh, I thought there was like Santa things here. Obviously not.
Hi, I'm Liz Connick. My role at Greater Shepparton City Council is I currently sit under Great Things Happen Here, and I'm focusing on careers and lifestyle at the moment. Congratulations to our young people, but also to our businesses who have taken that first step and in trusting these young people and bringing into their business. You've done a great job. So I talk a lot to businesses, and yes, they are all reaching out. They're wanting some casual workers, they're wanting staff, and we are going to be looking towards a very busy time, heading towards Christmas and our retail employers and so forth. I just probably wanted to ask, maybe is it Anita or Lisa, if I'm having a conversation with a business and they've had an incident or things haven't gone well when they've employed a young person, or they've taken that step to employ a young person, who's their first port of call? What's that first phone call that they can make if they're struggling or want to understand that young person better to help them stay there?
Do you want to take this one, Anita, or? I guess as well, just generally speaking, you know, we spoke before about this being, you know, that we don't currently have all the answers. We're all trying to figure all this stuff out, and we know that we've got huge staff and skill shortages within most of our industries at the moment. So, you know, we all are all trying our best and doing some, you know, there's some other programs that are happening in our area. Tawny's going to speak shortly around the Grow youth portal and all of that type of stuff. But we certainly also, we've got some feedback at the end, which we'd love to hear from you, because we would look to potentially do something after this as well to really kind of focus on industries and allow that conversation around the support mechanisms and things that can be offered. So, yeah, but I mean, this is obviously a first point of call for us to open up that, you know, yeah, the platform to start the discussion, I suppose. Yeah. Anita?
Yeah, I think just to follow up from that is that there's a lot of people, a lot of agencies supporting youth, so and the capacity for those agencies and how intense they can be to how much they just set that placement up and move on, or is really different. And I think employers will say that too, that it's varied from where Sarah or Matt or, you know, will go out and speak to employers about this is who we have and really set it up about what will work well. And that's Berry Street. Headspace is similar. They've got a very similar program that will go out to employers and work on more around the well-being side of young people, whereas you'll have your other job agencies that will do bits and pieces of that and are able to, and then there's some that can't. And so there's a lot of probably varied support, which is really important at the feedback time after this or at different times who want to contact Sarah or I or Lisa or Len or anyone, because we love to hear responses, because then we can work together with those agencies that do support young people to really look at what we're missing, what's the gaps. Because, don't have the answers for each and every
Yeah,
one.
I mean, there's no kind of one size fits all, is there really? We wish you had the answers to say, okay, you need to contact this number and we're going to have everything sorted, but it's kind of not a case of that. And I suppose, that's why, hearing from you guys, Scott and Amanda, around, things that you're implementing in your business that suit you guys, and sometimes it's a bit of trial and error stuff, but there certainly are, organisations that can assist with things. And I know, like even Sarah, you said, we can, and I think we've got some information on the fly around this as well, which is handy, so make sure everyone takes that with them. But at least now having contacts, whether that be Sarah Norris or Anita or myself, to contact as a first point of call if you have questions around things, to then be, I guess, sent on to further information, and we can assist you with those services from there. Yep. Hope that kind of semi-answered your question, Liz.
Good, a good start. Excellent. Was there any other, I don't know how we're going for times there. Okay. Anyone?
Elizabeth, I'll give you mine.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you so much. Elizabeth Capp, I'm from La Trobe, Shepparton. Thanks to all the panel for fabulous insights. So we're both an employer and an educated institution, and one of the things we grapple with is in thinking about safety for all our staff and indeed our students, the issue of cultural safety. And I'm just really interested in whether particularly any of the employers, and this really is connected to our desire to be as diverse as possible and to represent the community that we serve here, which is an ongoing challenge, I think, that nobody feels they've nailed, or nobody I've spoken to anyway. So I'm just interested in any thinking about how we think about cultural safety for new staff, young or old actually, but particularly around our young people. And if anyone's got any brilliant ideas about how to do that well, I'd be really pleased to hear them.
I think for what we've found to work really well is to have education for the other employees. So it's not necessarily judgment, it's more ignorance of what those cultural topics are. And I think one thing worked well was celebrating their cultures and educating through, we've had feasts and different activities, talking about, when we had some Muslim people and fasting and prayer and just things like that. And it was totally accepted, and we had, halal, and when we have barbecues in the workshop, it's just really understanding what people's needs are, and just catering for it, and there's just no judgment. So I think they feel safe, and then they brought other celebrations in, and we'd have different celebrations for things. We've had at our business here in Shepparton at McGoldrick's potluck lunches where people bring in their own cuisines, and everyone's trying different foods, and then so I think it's just open communication and education. Because I don't think at times, and I could have my rose-coloured glasses on, I don't think it's judgment or making people feel uncomfortable. It's just they don't understand it, and once they understand it, it hasn't been an issue.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm from Gradient Group. We're about to sort of start getting more and more young people in our business. How do I sell it to my more mature, experienced, grumpy staff? That it's not going to be too much of a draw on them, that they're not going to get mentor fatigue, and potentially for every two we might lose one, so they might keep going through this cycle. How do I sell it?
You educate your staff. There's your starting point before you even bring them in. So we're doing our planning and our support of our managers to support them to bring people through, and then probably for us it's hopefully getting them in on training. So to come in and just go, I don't want to sort waste, but come in and do a warehousing certificate. And then we can move you on to a forklift licence. Then, hey, are you actually good? You can bring in the office and you can do logistics if you can throw 6 things in the air and drop them into trucks. So I think you've already answered your own question. because it's, you know, potentially not that safe and a stress for you if you think, yeah. But, you know, you can turn that wheel. Everyone's got kids and grandkids and nieces and nephews, and I think that's would be what I would say. What'd you do as a HR expert?
It's just a classic. Every time we get the next lot of apprentices in and the older people are... but I think they're not going to last forever. So if they want to do less work, then they need to be part of, you know, upskilling. But, and I think one thing that works with us is they feel that they've contributed to that person's development. So it's not always congratulating the apprentice on how they're progressing. It's also congratulating and making the trainers and the mentors feeling valuable in what they're doing, and then get them excited about the next lot, and just trying to understand that you really value their place in what they're doing. And then also, I'm sure everyone's heard it, bloody young people aren't what they used to be, and you know, they don't want to work and they don't want jobs. And I think, again, it's just that education around, we've done a lot around how millennials think, what, you know, that no one has to wait anymore, they're always on their phone, that instant gratification, all that sort of stuff, just trying to tap into how they think, then makes the I don't like saying older, but your more experienced workforce.
Don't say senior.
Yeah. You know.
Already got a complex.
Yeah. And
Ken might walk out.
And it's not the young people's fault that they're like that, it's just the environment, you know, and I'm sure our more experienced people, if they had access to phones and iPads and everything that they did when they were younger, they'd be the same. So it's just getting them to try and think differently and embrace who our young people are and how they can absolutely add value. So, yeah.
Yeah, we've been pretty lucky. We've got a good team. The senior guys, they're always willing to share their knowledge. They've got a lot of knowledge. We've got a broad range of age groups, so you've got cases our youngest right through to, you know, 65 and everywhere in between. And we haven't really struck any major issues in terms of the older generation and the younger. A lot of it does come back to the younger person as well. The tradies will say it. They'll say, I'll show you a couple of times, and if you don't listen after that, I don't want to know you, sort of thing. Which you can understand, and we've actually had to have conversations over the time with those people and say, look, these guys are willing to teach you. You've got to listen and take what they've got on board. Another thing is each person learns differently. So the way I show someone might be different to the way someone else shows someone. So we'll try and, you know, tell the apprentices, you know, take that guy's knowledge, and somewhere in the middle you'll find where you learn and can excel from that. So, yeah, that's our experience.
And I guess my 2 bobs worth with this, but without getting too deep with it, but to tap into the real goodwill of people. But, you know, you think we're talking about employment. It's far broader than that. So we're actually talking about shifting life trajectories. So talking in those terms kind of conjures up a bit of a different kind of energy and conversation. So, and I think, I mean, I've been in this line of work for a lot of years, and you know, particularly at the hard end of the kind of system, with a lot of complexities for young people, a lot of difficulties. Often I don't hear the outcomes until many years later, and those outcomes, the positive ones, guarantee you, has employment attached to it. Someone gave an opportunity. Someone made some adjustments in the approach. Something that might have seemed really insignificant, just a foot in the door, has shifted a whole trajectory. And I've worked with kids where the system and people, like these kids were written off. You know, this kid's going to be life in jail, like that kind of attitude. And then to hear years later, and some of those kids I've sort of run into later in life, and oh my goodness, like you know, got a kid in your care, you know, got some battles, but geez, you're hanging in there, on top of your drug use. And one young lady that comes to mind, but I remember running into her years later, and how proud she was. She had a job at a chicken farm. But man, like the shift in her, how she felt about herself, the pride she had, the dignity, blew my mind. And this was one particular young lady that everyone had written off, and she had a child in her care on top of her substance use. And I would tell people about that. People wouldn't believe me, but and the single point in that was that employment opportunity that just shifted that trajectory, shifted a sense of, you know, I'm no good, to I can contribute, and even that positive view from others in society that, you know, I'm someone that contributes and I get that kind of reward back. And so it's far beyond the employment. So I guess to inspire people to really broaden it outside of that, we're really given opportunity to shift a trajectory of a life. So
what you're going to do is you're going to get one of these fabulous people to come and talk to those guys, put lunch on, and just and these guys will convince them. And then handpick someone beautiful like these lot. These guys will help, and that's how you change it. And then it's toned from the top. It's toned from the top. It's what Peter and I in our business, and Jane and our leadership team now, it's the tone that we set through our business. And sometimes the problem's going to not be the young one coming in. Ultimately, it'll be somebody else. And you just push through. 30 years, you just keep going. That's what I'm going to say.
Thanks very much, Cam and Jen.